So I wrote this framework in the context of COVID, but actually, this is a broader decision-making framework. I'm Emily Oster. I'm a professor of economics at Brown University. When the pandemic started, I was writing about COVID. I was getting a huge number of questions that were incredibly specific, and people wanted to know exactly what to do in their precise situation. But of course, I couldn't answer all of those questions. That was the source of this framework that back in May, I wrote out for people. And the framework for decision-making here really has it's a five steps. Step one is to frame the question. Think about what are the alternatives you're choosing between. Step two, mitigate risk. Think about the safest way to do the different options. Step three, evaluate risk. Think about how risky are each of these options if you're doing them as safely as possible. Step four, think about the benefits. What are the benefits of doing one versus the other? And step five, decide. Try to make a decision and try to move on. Many people don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, I think a lot of parents are facing the choice, should my kid go back in person? Should they go back remote? In some cases, the choice is, should I pull my kid from the public school system and try to get them into a school that is in person? How important is that? So I think, again, there's kind of a sitting down and thinking about really what are the options that I see as feasible. Second step, thinking about mitigating risk. Can your kid wear a mask all day? They can. They definitely can. Are you going to be able to enforce that? Evaluate risk. This really requires us to understand better what are the risks of in-person school for kids. This is going to be a hard decision, and this is going to be one where it's really going to be a challenge for parents to feel good about their choices. So screen time is something that many of us have found ourselves making choices that we didn't expect about. So I personally, pre-pandemic, was a pretty limited screen time person, but there is no question that screens have become a much bigger part of my parenting journey. But we're also finding ourselves making choices about that and thinking about, how do we decide how much screen time is appropriate? First, frame the question. Are your two choices no screen time versus unlimited screen time? Probably not. Are your two choices no screen time versus an hour a day? Are your choices an hour versus 2 hours? So actually try to articulate what's the margin on which you think you can move. Most of the literature there is pretty reassuring that at least, in some moderation, screen time does not seem to have negative impacts on kids. So I think that evaluation of risk is probably a bit easier than if we're thinking about COVID. In this case, you want to articulate the decision and articulate it to your kids and say, okay, this is the rule that we're gonna have. Here's how we're gonna move forward with that.